Thank you for plugging into this Family Life News podcast, streaming issues-driven, family-focused news.
This is Faith Under Fire. Each Thursday on Family Life, we give voice to religious battlegrounds in this nation. I'm your host, Tracy Lynn. With us today, Hiram Sasser, Executive General Counsel for First Liberty Institute. So this week, the Supreme Court heard arguments in a free speech case out of Pennsylvania coal country. Would you tell our listeners the basics of this case?
Sure. What this involves is a girl who wanted to be a varsity cheerleader. She didn't make it for whatever reason. So she decided to vent her frustrations on social media while she was completely off school property and in some cases in her home. She used some colorful language to describe her dissatisfaction with the situation, as teenagers sometimes do. But the school decided that they were going to punish her for this speech that occurred completely on her own time away from school campus that did not involve any kind of threats or any kind of violence or anything like that. It was just simply complaining about her situation, again, using colorful language. And they wanted to punish her for that. And they did punish her for that. And so she sued to say, you're not allowed to punish me for speech that I engage in while I'm sitting in my own bedroom.
Social media is not going away, and within the last year, we've seen social media sites ban people from their platforms. Brandy thought her post would disappear within 24 hours, but someone saved a screenshot and then shared that with others. Hiram, do you think that social media will continue to impact speech liberties in this nation?
Yeah, see, here's the problem, and this is why we're getting involved. We focus only on religious liberty, and so you might think, well, why in the world do we care about the outcome of this case? And the reason why we care is that there's one type of speech that the government, especially government school officials, have sort of vowed that they themselves will never utter, which is religious speech. And then they take that mantra a little too far, and they start saying, and we're not going to allow that kind of religious speech to happen from the students as well. And so if the government schools have the power to punish kids for the things that they say off campus, then that means they would have the power to punish a kid for what they said in Sunday school or what they said in their synagogue or what other religious place that they may be. And that's a real problem because the liberal orthodoxy that most public schools push is at odds with billions of believers in the big three religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And so it's not uncommon for kids of strong religious beliefs to express their dissatisfaction with the liberal orthodoxy of their schools on social media in the privacy of their own homes. And so if schools can start punishing off-campus speech this way, then the big problem is going to happen when they start punishing religious speech.
Yeah, it's got wide-reaching impact, this case. What would you say to the people who think allowing free speech, even off-campus, hinders the rights of the school officials to regulate speech that would substantially disrupt the work and discipline of the school?
The great thing about the framework that the Supreme Court set up is that the government has to prove it, that there's a real problem. And we can all recognize that there were terroristic type threats and that sort of thing, that the government schools would have some sort of leg to stand on to take action. But the other thing that we have to remember, though, is this, that there's other government agencies that are available. We don't need the schools to police off-campus speech. If it's something that they think the parents should address, or the parents won't address, or they think it's that serious and violates so many laws, they just call the police. But we don't need government school officials patrolling the off-campus speech domains of students and then punishing them for speech that they don't like or they don't agree with that the kids engage in on social media out of the privacy of their own homes.
Excellent. The young lady in Pennsylvania's Mahanoy School District voiced her frustration, but she did not suggest actions against anyone, in my understanding. She just was complaining. We know that some parents and students are concerned about what a win for free speech here would do to cyberbullying. Does the law allow for both free speech and accountability when it comes to speech or words with intent to harm another person?
Sure. Obviously, if there's speech that rises to that level, you call the police. It's not the school that has to take a specific action. If it's that level, you call the police and you prosecute people for crimes. But for whatever reason, it seems that some of the school officials, they want the power to punish speech with which they disagree. In other words, they want to bully kids that don't agree with their, most of the time, liberal orthodoxy. And that's a really big problem. It's such a big problem that I had to testify on that topic in front of the U.S. Civil Rights Commission about government and school officials bullying kids because of their religious beliefs. And we don't want to give them any more power. But we also want to make sure we protect people from cyberbullying like you're talking about. But we have laws for that. And those laws are not enforced by school officials. They're enforced by other government agencies. And all the school officials have to do is report it to those government agencies, and they will take care of it.
Hiram, I know as we see more and more push towards LGBT inclusion, if that's what you want to call it, this is going to be even more of an issue because what will this mean for the people who hold to traditional biblical values about identity, about gender? Do you have any advice for our listeners in the days ahead when it comes to these kind of issues?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to remember is that Lori Ingalls Wilder is not the teacher anymore. It's not the little red schoolhouse anymore. The school districts are run by a well-oiled bureaucratic machine that leans left. And they have a particular worldview, a particular orthodoxy, and they are pushing that on the kids. And I don't care if you're in little town in Wisconsin or West Texas or you're in San Francisco, it's all coming top down through all of their various unions and state boards of education and association of school boards and that sort of thing. And so the only thing that we have to fight that is freedom, and the freedom to disagree with the government's position. And we have to maintain that freedom. And if that means that we have to make sure that a cheerleader can complain using colorful language about not making the cheer team, that's a very small price to pay for the preservation of our freedom and our ability to actually transition our values to our kids and to actually preserve at least some remnant of religious liberty in our public education system. It's a very small price to pay. And if we don't pay that small price to allow for free speech, then we are essentially handing every key over to the liberal orthodoxy machine in our public schools, and we have abandoned the fight.
Hiram, excellent content. Where can folks learn more about this case and others that you're working on?
They can go to our website. It's First Liberty Institute, and so they can go to firstliberty.org. and learn about the cases that we're fighting for, including the religious liberty rights of students in our public schools.
That's Hiram Sasser with First Liberty Institute. I'm Tracy Lynn, Family Life News.